Well, good morning, YouTube viewers. We have this 2005 Mini Cooper uh, here today again for the intermittent no crank condition. In an earlier video, which I'll link to in the description, I put a test light on the starter control circuit and gave it back to the customer. Now it's been almost 3 weeks and it hasn't acted up during that time. But we did order an ignition switch for it, so we are going to change the ignition switch this morning. Hopefully that's going to resolve the problem. But like I said, it worked good for 3 weeks with no issues. Um, my research indicates that the ignition switch is fairly common to cause this, an intermittent no crank condition, and also to affect the wiper operation for some reason. But he's never complained about an issue with the wipers on this thing. So we're going to start by moving the car back a little bit so I can open the door a little better here, and I'll take little video clips along the way so you can see what's involved in changing the ignition switch. So the first thing you want to do is disconnect the negative battery post, which is always a good idea. Now this plastic panel just pulls straight down from the top and then pivots off the bottom here, so I need two hands to do it though. Okay, it takes a fair amount of force to pull it off the pins, and then it just unclips from the bottom. So set it off to the side. That gives us access to the bottom of the steering column. The switch is located right in here. Now, the next thing you got to do is take this plastic cover off around the ignition switch. I'm going to get a little pry tool, or maybe I can get my fingernails under it. No, it's just like a grommet, so it needs to be pried out. Okay, so that came out fairly easy. It's just like a little grommet, so it goes around the trim. Now there are two T20 screws in the bottom of the plastic trim here, so we're going to remove those screws next. Okay, so once you get the two screws out there they are on the floor. You can pry this bottom cover off of the steering column. Set that off to the side. Now the actual ignition switch is right here, and to release it we got to pry this out, and then it should disconnect. That's removed. There we go. The connections look good. Now there are two small standard screws that hold the ignition switch in. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you don't need to remove them completely. You just need to loosen them off. There's one right there, I believe, but I'll get underneath there with a camera or with a mirror. Okay, so you need like a jeweler screwdriver to release these screws. There's one in here, and you don't need to take them right out. They go like into they're like a set screw, and they go into a pocket. And I can't see this one. You can see the switch releasing. Now it should just pull out of there. Maybe I gotta release the back one a bit more. Oh, my light moved. Okay, I gotta get two hands here. So you can see those little screws go into these little holes here and just push the switch up against the back. Like I said, thread them out until they're almost flush with this housing here. You can see one right there. So let's get the new switch. So there's the switch we managed to acquire for this thing. It's I believe Standard Motor products, and compare it to the replacement one to the original one. Make sure they got the same number of pins. This looks right. And basically the procedure to install it is the reverse of removal. So check the orientation of the replacement switch with the original one where it came off, because it came off in the lock position. You can see this one's out, so I'm going to just turn it manually with a screwdriver to line it up so it'll slide in there better. So I just turned it with a standard screwdriver so that they're both in the same orientation. Now it should go in okay. So there's the new switch installed. I'm going to put the battery cable back on and try it before I put the covers back on. This connector just pushes up and the lock snaps in at the same time. It's kind of like a little lever. Okay, so we're going to give it a try here. Key in the ignition, on. Okay, we'll put the covers back on. So when you're pushing this little grommet back in, you have to kind of work the lip around the plastic, and a small standard screwdriver helps. And when you're putting this knee bolster back up, there's two pins on top and two clips on the top, and the middle clip is underneath. So you have to kind of tilt it down and slide it in simultaneously as you lift it up, and then it just snaps in place with the two pins on top. But that's it. We're back together, and hopefully this thing is going to be resolved.